All right, so I've just hit my head. We're on set. I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what a camera is. So you teach me what a camera is. And I'm like, cool. And then I look out at a wide shot, like I'm talking like close to Lawrence of Arabia. I'm like, hey, there's all these guys on horses and they're running through a field. And I need a very majestic Western shot of this. What lens are from our setup for the film are you using for that, and why?
Welcome back to Your Next Film, a podcast by creatives for creatives where we help you grow both creatively and professionally. I'm your host, Zack, and today's episode is all about lenses. We're breaking down every lens we use to film our first feature, Hypnagogia. So whether you're gearing up for your own first feature or just want to know how the right glass can completely change the look of your film, this one's for you. Later, in Zack's Gear Corner, things get heated as Matteo and I face off in a ridiculous debate over the most essential pieces of filmmaking gear. Lacy rugged hard drive, more like lacy schmugged hard drive, because this isn't 2016. SSDs don't cost a ton of money anymore.
They're tried and true technology. Lacy itself is one of the more reliable ones, one of the more iconic ones.
Also, if you're a filmmaker with a short film, we want to feature it on the show. Click the link in the description to submit your movie, and we just might review it in a future episode. We can't wait to check it out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Your Next Film.
Your favorite podcast.
We are your hosts.
Zack Koch on the mic.
Yo, what's up?
Also on the mic. I'm on a mic right now.
We got a lot of exciting stuff lined up today. Today's episode is all about lenses. We're going to be talking about the lenses that we use to film our most recent indie feature film, which, round of applause for us, is officially completed as of this weekend.
We got a rough cut together, which is more than I expected about this time last year.
I think I promised you October at one point.
Yeah, well, I also promised you that we would finish shooting by the end of July.
True. I don't know when I promised the October thing, but it is done. There are some little minor things we need to tweak, but we have a version 1 that's exported and like watchable, which is
Were
cool.
you to show it to an audience, they would go, it's a movie.
Looks like a finished film, yeah. So that feels pretty good. But today we're going to be talking about lenses and the lenses that we use to make this feature. But before we get into all that, how was your week, Matteo?
Tired. I'm in that part of my career where I get to do 13-hour days at work, 12-hour days at work. And I am salaried enough that it does not give me overtime either. Unlike the time previous to having a writing job where I was doing blue collar 12 and 11 and 13-hour days at work. Those don't count. So I am exhausted all the time, but I've still made it. So I'm here. We're ready. I'm ready to go. Let's talk movies.
And thank goodness for it.
How have you been, Zack? I do believe you may have purchased an automobile.
I did. I purchased my first auto since 2016.
Wow.
And it's a lot cooler. It's by far the coolest car I've ever owned. I bought the GTI and I'm very happy about it.
Honestly, not a bad decision.
Dude, it's so much fun. It's kind of blown me away. It's fast. It's faster than it really needs to be.
Is it the most horsepower you've ever owned at one time?
Oh yeah.
I have alleged 300 horsepower in the Nova, but that is sitting on jack stands in the garage. So you currently have more horsepower than I do.
I will challenge you to a race once it's up and running.
Even if I get the Nova LS swapped, you're still winning.
Yeah, you've got nice tires though.
I do. Yeah. Having to it's on jack stands because I'm trying not to flat spot them by sitting for too long.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that was a thing. It makes sense. Yeah. Well, that being said, yeah, I did get my car last night, and it's very cool, and it's very shiny, and I'll have to take you for a ride, let you drive it.
Yeah, so we're taking you guys on a ride. We're getting into today's topic, which is the lenses of Hypnagogia, or if most of you will have a familiarity with what Hypnagogia is, but if you're new here, Hypnagogia is a feature film. So to simplify it much further, we shot a film with these lenses, and it's a feature film. So maybe consider them.
Actually, as of right this second, it is 39 minutes and 6 seconds long.
Got to give us that extra minute.
Yeah, we will get to feature, but it is a short feature or a long short, depending on how you look at it. But we're marketing it as a feature.
Why not? We can do whatever we want. It's a feature.
According to SAG, I think.
Yes.
It's a feature.
Is
But
SAG 25 minutes or 45 minutes, or is it 40 minutes? Because I know some people
it's
say 40.
45 sounds not right. I
Okay.
don't think anyone says 45. I
Maybe
could
I'm
be
just
wrong.
looking at the wrong festivals.
I think most people say, like, I think there's 40, and then most people agree it's like 100 minutes to 90. Or no,
I mean,
60.
50 minutes is like a children's movie. I'm looking this up right now. I have to know. 40 minutes.
Hey, there we go. According to SAG,
According to Studio Binder, who I trust.
Studio Binder's good.
Yeah. But this week's episode, what lenses did we use on a feature film, and how can they help you? Zack is the gear guy. You guys love hearing about gear. I know you love hearing about gear.
I hope they do.
We have a whole gear corner. I should hope they do.
Yeah, it's not like we have a whole segment every single week about gear.
Gear is just a sexy topic. Like, nobody wants to hear about, like, practical skills. It's always gear. If you hear people like, oh, yeah, I want to know about practical skills, they're lying. They want to become a better person.
Mm-hmm.
It's always gear.
Right.
So let Zack guide us through gear, and I will learn with the rest of you. So, Zack, I'll let you kind of preface us and intro us into talking about our topic of the week.
For sure. So here's the thing. When it comes to capturing your image, a lens is pretty much secondary to the camera body with the sensor that actually captures the image. You actually need a lens to be able to focus all that light onto the sensor. And the way that light is focused onto the sensor does determine kind of like the look and feel of the shot and how ultimately your audience is going to interact with the shot. And so lenses are like an extremely important topic for just dialing in a certain tone and trying to achieve a certain like emotional effect from the audience. And so, we'll get into it, but there are some lens choices in the film that I think lend themselves to just a certain feeling, certain vibe, and ultimately it helps our storytelling. So that's kind of my thesis, more or less, is that lenses can be a tool for storytelling, just like, composition and
music choice,
music, production value, elements, things like that.
I've actually been producing a lot of music recently for the film.
Yeah, yeah.
To the point that I've started to just do like music as a minor creative outlet on my own.
It's fun.
I do it every now and then. I have a SoundCloud that I throw stuff up on every now and then. But recently, I've like really found myself deconstructing songs. So let's deconstruct this lens choice. There's 3 lenses, right? Are there more?
There's 5. Technically.
5 lenses.
But
technically 5 lenses.
3 points. Lens 1, 2, lens 3 through 5.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. But before we do that, Zack, what inspired you this week?
So I watch a lot of YouTube. I probably watch, I'd say this could be said for most people, but I watch way more YouTube than I do traditional media like movies and television and stuff like that. My wife loves TV. She's always got a show she's like working her way through and just kind of like binging it. But for me, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and because I'm a filmmaker, I spend a lot of time on film YouTube. And there's this kind of, I would say, up-and-coming filmmaking YouTube channel called Ultra Sharp. I don't want to say small channel because they're bigger than we are. And so it feels weird to like talk down like, oh, small channel. But this guy...
A newer channel.
Yeah, newer channel. I think they have like 12,000 subscribers. So like
Impressive.
within the grand scheme of YouTube, it's like a micro channel. But production value-wise, it's some of the best content. It's certainly the best content I've seen within the filmmaking YouTube world, which is saying a lot. And so I watched a video of his actually today about video editing. It was just really cool. I highly recommend it. I'll put a link to it in the description, but the way that he does storytelling and incorporates that into his, what is ultimately just a video essay, he makes it cool. He makes the video essays almost in the style of like narrative films. And I think that's awesome. Yeah. And so this particular one, and to be fair, most of his films, I call them films. They're kind of films in a way. But his videos, they have this like surrealist element. So, I mean, there was a shot, for example, in this editing video where there's just like a bunch of lamps floating in the air, like above his head. It's just really cool. It makes me want to stop recording this podcast and film something right now.
All right. Sorry, guys. Podcast canceled. See you all next week. I'm going to wheel a little TV and we're going to watch Bill Nye. What inspired me this week, honestly... the TV show Severance. Season 2 is out. They release it weekly. and it just has me absolutely hooked. And it's the first season's phenomenal. It came out in 2021, 2022, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been out. And then only just this year did the second season start releasing. And when the second season starts up, I'm like, how are they going to top season one, which was honestly some of the best TV, just period. Especially of the 2020s, I would say it's the best TV. You know, the 2010s had some great series, and the 2000s with the prestige HBO shows also had some great series. But I believe of the 2020s, Severance is setting the bar really, really high.
Saying a lot.
And I didn't know if they were going to be able to top season one because, you know, you get the Stranger Things syndrome happens and you can never quite recapture the magic of season one, and you're always left chasing that. But man, season two just keeps getting crazier and crazier in ways I did not expect. Highly suggest you watch it. It's Apple
I think
TV.
you mentioned this last week, and I said the same thing. Like, I have Apple TV. I need to just watch it.
Yeah, you have to watch it. It's so good. I'm a person who, when people talk about like jumping the shark and the sophomore effort, I'm always afraid of that sophomore slump. How am I going to follow up something that I did competently? And so this is an inspiration to do that. Make something that keeps being better.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, you know, with Hypnagogia, like we watched the film last weekend. I screened it for you, and we both kind of had the same feeling of, this is cool, this is good, but we can do so much better.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
So I think we did an episode last year. I don't think we did do an episode last year, 9 months ago or so, about stagnation. And we were like, have we stagnated? Will we ever improve? And then like immediately just, you know, rebutted that because there's room for improvement. I don't know. I haven't
it's
felt
one of
like I've
those
stagnated.
like, I know we can do better. And it's not in a bad way that I'm like, we can do better than this, you know. It's in a way where I'm like, I watch the film and I'm like, this is really good. Now I know how to make a feature, or now I know how to make something in the shape of a feature.
Mm-hmm.
And I can take these lessons and make something better because I know we can do better versus, you know, this is my masterpiece. How am I ever going to top it? Should I just, you know, retire from making movies?
I have thought about it.
Well, let's jump into Lens 1. Tell us about Lens 1, Zach.
So the first lens that we used for this project is a Nikon AFD 20 to 35 millimeter f2.8. It's kind of an ultra wide zoom lens. That's the lens that we started the project on.
Started the project on an ultra wide zoom lens that is practically manual focus, despite the fact that it has autofocus capabilities.
Yes.
So what did you like really use this for on the film? Because we started with, that's like the first one, we used it for the architecture scenes at night, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was like your intent when you started out with this lens?
Yeah, I don't know if I was like, oh, my vision, I'm gonna like something about
come on, you
the
gotta
20
get
millimeter.
on auteur. Where's your Wes Anderson?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna
Kubrick.
like justify it in a really pretentious way. I just kind of wanted to shoot the film with something like a 20 millimeter focal length, and this lens encompassed that focal length and several others. So I just wanted that wide angle kind of feel. Just exaggerates distance. It just feels really cool. And we'll get into some scenarios of like how that focal length achieves that, but I just thought it'd be cool. That's all.
Okay. So, Lens 1, Lens 2 of 5.
Nikon AIS 50 millimeter f1.4. And I will say that all the rest of the lenses that we're going to be talking about are Nikon AIS lenses. So the AFD one is a zoom lens. The rest of the ones we're going to talk about are just prime lenses. They just have one focal length, and they exist all within the same line with the exception of the AFD. And so they have similar optics too, more consistency.
What was your purpose when you chose an AIS over something that could have zoom?
The AIS lenses are kind of known for their image quality. Like they're up there with, I'm sure you've heard of like Canon FD lenses. They're 35 millimeter still lenses. Nikon back in the day was really cool. Then they became not so cool. And then now I think they're cool again. Really killer cameras with like fast readout speeds and 8K raw internal. Like they bought Red. I don't know if you knew about that.
Oh,
Nikon
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they just I think last week came out with the first Red cameras with Nikon mount. They have a little like yellow ring on them now, which is cool.
Solid. Okay.
But yeah, Nikon's cool again. They originally were cool because like they were the war photographer's choice. Like you can see people in Vietnam with like Nikon F3s, and it's just they're really cool bulletproof cameras. I have one, can't really see it that well. That's a Nikon FM2 film camera, and all the lenses we use to make the film fit on that camera and are adapted to Panasonic. Yeah,
interesting.
So yeah, it's really cool. The AIS lens is really good optics, really good price. But we started with the 50 millimeter, which the purpose of it was really just to use it for medium and close-up shots because 50 millimeters can be used for both. So anytime I didn't want an ultra wide, I used the 50 mil.
Stylistically, what did that give you?
Two things. So the longer focal length, you get more compression, so you can kind of separate the foreground and background elements more. This was the only lens that I had that was an f1.4, so you can make the depth of field like a lot shallower, so you can add even more separation. The other lenses were all wider, so they exaggerate like perspective, but otherwise the depth of like how much you're able to blur out is like not that much. So they're kind of like shallower lenses. But the 50 millimeter, you could just really whack the background and get this really creamy look. And I hate saying that because that's like very, creamy bokeh, YouTube. That's a very YouTube video guy thing to say. But for the dream walk sequences where it gets like really blurry and I'm like focus whacking and it's like the tip of your nose is in focus and then it's like your mouth and then your eyes and we're kind of moving back and forth. I needed that kind of distorted feeling.
The abstraction.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want you to see everything in the frame. I wanted it to feel dreamlike, and so all of those scenes were shot with the 50 millimeter because I could really like isolate the background and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, with the 50 millimeter, if somebody's just like, "Hey, I got this. I'm making a film. You're my like director of photography advisor or whatever." They need you to be their caddy to choose like the lenses, like you're pulling like a 9-iron out of a bag or whatever. And they're like, when's the best time to use this? Like, what like sort of situation are you envisioning that for?
So with the 50
what we did with the film.
Yeah. You could kind of use it for everything. And that's the beauty of it. It's great for like wide shots. You just have to like move backwards a little bit. It's great for close-ups. You just got to move forward a little bit.
Because you have no zoom again.
Yeah. And they say like 50 millimeter focal length is closest to what our eyes see. So it's just a normal kind of default focal length. So it's kind of good for everything. I would ask this question for some of the other focal lengths more just because they're more specialized, I would say. Like 20 millimeters is very specialized.
Okay. So this is your duo. So you shot most of the film on this?
No, because I'm crazy. I shot most of the film probably on a 20 millimeter to 28 or so. But just because I liked the perspective that it gave. But I would, if I was informing someone else, I would say, yeah, 50, because it's going to be like the most normal lens and useful for the most things. If I could only pick one lens, it might have been that, just for its versatility.
So we've done the 50, we've done the AFD zoom, and now we have...
So I'm just going to kind of go over them all at once.
Okay, all at once, the chunk.
The chunk. So we have the 28 millimeter AIS, the 20 millimeter AIS, and the 35 millimeter AIS. So if you're paying attention, listener, those focal lengths are encompassed within the zoom lens, and also it's the same like f-stop. So they're all f2.8 lenses. The zoom lens is also f2.8. So you're probably like, well, if you already had the 20 to 35 zoom lens, why did you buy a 20, a 28, and a 35?
Yeah, that is why the redundancy.
Because they're sharper, and they flare better, and they're better quality, and they're beautiful. So I also just like, this was my first vintage lens set that I ever built out. So I built them out with like cine gears and matching like lens caps and yeah.
So your answer there is because pretty.
Yeah, they're definitely higher quality. Yeah, for sure.
So walk me through the 28. What's your specific purpose with the 28 when you're being a lens caddy for me here? What do you suggest we use the 28 for?
So it's hard to talk about the 28 millimeter without talking about like a 24 millimeter, because 24 millimeters is a lot more common as a wide angle focal length. 28's a little bit more specific. It's a little bit tighter, just barely. But for me personally, I just find that it's easier to have like a shot that's focused, like it has a purpose to it. Like 24 millimeters just feels too wide. Compositionally, for me personally, it just feels like it's hard to, like you're almost seeing too much of the frame without getting a lot of the benefits of like an ultra wide, for example. So for me, like I like the extremes of 20 millimeter and 28 versus like something in the middle, like a 24. Um,
Okay.
I do all of my street photography with the 28 millimeter. It's just perfect. I mentioned earlier that the 50 millimeter is closest to like what our eyes see, but really it's kind of a range, and that range starts at like 28 and goes to 50. Um, if you count like your peripheral vision, that's
Mm-hmm.
something like 28, and then
Yeah.
slightly
Okay.
narrower, a little bit blurry on the sides is like a 35, and then just what's in focus in your field of view is like a 50.
So where in the film did you use the 28 the most?
I use the 28 a ton. The 28 was just a really safe focal length to use when I needed a wide shot, and I didn't want to commit to something super wide like the 20 millimeter. There were certain compositions that worked really well with 20 millimeter, but I think the 28 just gave me it almost felt more conservative while also being like wide.
Okay. So now to the 35.
Yes, my least used lens. 35 is great. 35 is like, I want something close to a medium shot. I can use it for close ups if I want, but I don't want to commit to something like super tight like a 50. So, 35 is good for medium shots, but you still want to show like a decent amount of your environment. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want to focus solely on the subject. So 50 is a little bit better for like slightly less environment, but like more subject. And 35 is like a little bit of both. It's a good balance, personally. A lot of people like 35.
So this has been your sort of rundown. Um, Pretend that once again you're my lens caddy, and I happen to just get a bunch of retrograde amnesia on the shoot. So I'm gonna run a bunch of shots past you. I'm gonna describe them, and then I need you to tell me about tell me which lens to use
Okay.
and what protocols.
Okay, cool. That sounds fun.
All right, so I've just hit my head. We're on set. I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what a camera is. So you teach me what a camera is. And I'm like, okay, what's a camera, Zach? And you're like, well, it's a sensor and a bunch of other stuff attached. Sometimes there's film inside. And I'm like, cool. And then I look out at a wide shot. Like I'm talking like close to Lawrence of Arabia. I'm like, hey, there's all these guys on horses and they're running through a field. And I need a very majestic Western shot of this. What lens are from our setup for the film are you using for that? Or rather, are you suggesting to me, your long-suffering director, and why?
I mean, I guess it just depends on like what you're going for, because there was
A,
a
a
film.
wide shot of men on beautiful horses.
So the deal is like we talk about lenses as being either like wider or tighter, but technically you can get like a wide shot with a tighter lens. You just kind of move back. Um, so you can get that effect, like you get the film language if you
Mm-hmm.
will, but you can achieve slightly different effects with the lens that you pick, but like still serve the same purpose of like, oh, I need a wide establishing shot.
Gotcha.
So it kind of depends on like how in the moment you want to feel. So there was a Western that came out maybe like 5 years ago, but they used a lot of like, I would say probably 28 millimeter focal lengths on it, and horses, gunfights, things like that, and it felt like you were like right there with them. That's why like a lot of YouTubers will use like a 18 mil or 20 or 24 mil. It's like, hey, what's up, guys? And you feel like you're right there
Mm-hmm.
talking with that person. And a lot of them will say that's exactly why they use it. With film, we can kind of choose like how in the moment we want to like place our audience. And so, when the horses are like, I don't know, there's distortion. So when they get closer, there's just a different effect with the lens that you're just not
Okay.
going to get if they pass the
I
camera
want
with
a
like a
far away
50.
horse in this point. So
You
I've
could
set up
probably do a 50,
a
do a
wide
50
opening
mil,
shot. Do 50
50
mil.
mil,
Okay.
50 mil, really safe. Since you have all this space to work with, you have plenty of room to move back. Safe, no distortion. You can still fit everything in there. It's going to look great. But I would say if you want like an action scene, like horses running by,
Mm-hmm.
gunfights, stuff like that, something like a 28 would be really sick, because you're
Okay.
you're just like boom, planted right there. You feel like stuff's running by you in 3D.
So I want a 50 for a super wide, and I'm like, okay, I get the super wide, and I'm like, all right, next on to the next scene with film. We're filming in a submarine. I walk into the submarine. I hit my head again, on like a low bulkhead, and I'm trying to do like a really close up, like a knife fight, close quarters on a submarine. What lens are you suggesting, Lens Caddy?
Well, 28. I think 28 would be sick
Okay,
because like you can kind of move in and out,
yeah, move in and out. All right.
get really close. Knife's like right there. You're like, whoa, this is crazy.
What if I want to capture the up close nature of all of it, but also more of the environment around them? What if I really want to show off that I'm shooting on a submarine, which are known for their sweeping vistas, obviously?
Yeah. So the wider the lens, the more of the environment that you're getting. So to clarify, like, when I say like, oh, a 28 with like a knife fight would be really cool. I'm I am assuming that you're getting like really close to
Mm-hmm.
and like exaggerating the distances and whatnot. Um, if you move further away from the actors with any lens, you'll get more of the environment
Okay.
and less of them in relation to it. So I would still say 28, but just maybe not get as close. 35 really safe. Like I would say 35. 35 would be good.
Okay.
I'm just spitballing here. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
it's like
You're my
asking
lens
me.
caddy. You're my lens caddy.
Yeah, it's like asking me like as a painter or something. It's like, well, what shade of blue should I paint the sky? And it's like, well, frick, I don't know. Like have your choice. But I mean, that's kind of my thought process.
All right. I've hit my head again. Now I bonked it on a C stand. We're shooting our next scene. So 28 or 35 for the up closes in a submarine, very cramped. Hit my head on a C stand. We're shooting a dinner party, very tense. There's a lot of emotion in this scene, and I want to capture everything. But I'm trying to do something stupid and artsy, the way I love to do it, with sort of a fixed position and everything's a one take. What's the best lens for that? And we're not too close because we need to get all the actors' faces, but I still need that to be palpable.
Yeah, 50 mil.
Okay.
Easy decision. Because the thing is, like, if you're doing a oneer, your options for like what you're like, even if it's one shot, you still have a sequence of shots within the oneer because you're focusing and the camera's moving on different elements throughout it. So you can almost kind of break it into sub shots, but your options are limited because you can't like change lenses and then like, get a close up or whatever. And so you need something that can kind of do everything. So like I was saying, 50 millimeter, really good for wides because you just move backwards, really good for like great close up detail shots if you just move in. Those are things that you can do during a oneer, but you can't change focal lengths. So if I was stuck on like a 28 millimeter for the oneer, I'm just so limited to, I'm just seeing like every single shot at a minimum is a two shot. There's at least two people in every shot, no matter which direction I'm filming this dinner scene. Whereas if it's a tense moment and I really want to focus on like one person's expression during this oneer, I might want the option to do that, and I wouldn't have that option without the tightness that a 50 millimeter would give. But if during that shot, like I said, wanted to reveal more of the scene, you can just kind of move back, and so the 50 gives you that option, I would say.
All right. So next shot, we're in a warehouse. It's a pretty open layout, and I'm sort of like, Gear Caddy, you've got your lenses, right? Give me a good lens for whatever shot of your choice in a warehouse is. And I'm like, what do I use for the 20 for? Because we haven't used the 20 yet.
Let's see.
It's just a big open warehouse. I can get as close or far away from the subject as I want. And I'm like, I want the 20. What do I use this for?
With the 20 mil, like what I think is great about the 20 millimeter is it's not super distorted. So it's not like a fisheye where it like bends at the centers or at the edges of the frame. 20 millimeters is like a lot more like straight than that, which is cool because you can get really nice leading lines. And so there's a lot of shots in Hypnagogia with the 20 millimeter lens that has like these wide shots, but we're inside of like a carport, or we're inside like a cafe, and you see these like you see every line in the building practically. It's like the back wall, you see the ceiling, you see all the lines like connecting, and you can really like place your actors in a way that just makes it look gorgeous and cool. So like for the 20 millimeter with the warehouse shot, like you could just make it look really impressive and really big and with amazing leading lines pointed at whatever your subject is. I would say an establishing shot, potentially.
Okay.
Potentially.
So I'm like, all right, thank you, Lens Caddy. And then your time is up because it is now time for Zack's Gear Corner.
All right, guys. I wanted to do something a little special for Zack's Gear Corner today. I didn't want it to just be me, because you guys are probably tired of just seeing me at this point. You want to see a little bit of Matteo's handsome face. So this is what
somebody
we're
who
gonna do.
absolutely knows and uses gear all the time.
So today for Zack's Gear Corner, we're going to be playing a little game called Good Gear, Bad Gear. So the objective of the game is to argue for or against a given piece of filmmaking gear.
Something I'm very good at.
Yeah, I think you'll be good at these. So we will take turns. One of us will be arguing why a certain piece of gear is super necessary, the best piece of gear in the world. The second person will then debate why it's awful and why you don't need it. Then, after the 30 seconds is up for both of us, we will be coming together for 2 minutes and we'll be discussing, talking back and forth, asking questions, and trying to figure out who's right. We're going to be doing that for 3 pieces of gear.
Of Zack's choice, because again, what gear do I have?
It's literally scrambling before the episode, like, what are we going to use for this game? You guys won't know what the gear is until we get to it. But to start us off, we're going to be using a sandbag.
For or against? Where are you?
I'll
Zach?
do for the sandbag.
Okay.
I'll be pro sandbag. Okay. I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock. I'm going to be explaining to you in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing with a sandbag. Sandbags are the lifesaver of every set. You got to have them. It's the one thing that's probably more underappreciated than any other piece of equipment. Everyone wants to talk about cameras, everyone wants to talk about lights, but here's the thing, is you wouldn't even be able to talk about those things unless you survived long enough to be able to talk about them. And let me just say, it's pretty hard to survive the fatal blow of a 20-pound light on a C-stand boomed overhead, whacking you in the face. And that, my friend, is a fate that you can avoid with this here sandbag. And that has been my time. I pass it on to you, Matteo. Here is the sandbag.
All right, you're going to have to time me because my watch isn't one of those fancy little ones.
I got you. So let me know when you're ready.
All right, you're quite a pitchman, Zack. Let's go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, you see, the thing is that in a modern environment where you're filming, you're not running 20-pound lights. Or rather, you don't have to. You're running your entire camera setup on an iPhone. You have a minimal mic, sometimes Bluetooth, not even wired. So the sandbag is really just holding you down. You can't be quick and dirty if the sandbag is in your way. It's holding all the dirt in. That is my pitch for why the sandbag's not that great, which is to say it's heavy, it's outdated, it's anachronistic, and it does not mesh with the modern filmmaking philosophy.
And that is time. Nicely said. I also forgot I was going to do a thing, and now I fear that my audio is bad. Could you hear me decently?
Yeah, decently.
Decently?
I would maybe talk more into the mic for...
I'll do this. This will be better. But
yeah.
I meant to do it and I forgot. But all right, so I see your point, right? Lighter, lights, they don't need to be held down as much. There are really great stands that are planted in place. They're not going to tip over as much. But what if you want to get a overhead shot where your camera or your light is extended out really far? I mean, even the lightest weight package is going to fall over without a sandbag. So I see what you're saying is if your light is in like a normal position, but otherwise, like if it's not, you just don't have that creative freedom.
There are use cases for the use cases for the sandbag, just like there are use cases for shooting on film. I just feel that within the sort of young filmmaking setup, there's not necessarily all that much need for the sandbag as compared to years prior.
So it's not a first choice.
It's not a first choice. I can use a sandbag all the time, and that's fine.
Here's my thing. Why not buy a sandbag? Because a sandbag is like $5. It costs almost nothing. You're already investing all this money into lights and stands. Why not invest the extra $5 to be able to allow yourself to boom it overhead and do all sorts of other things? You can just leave it in your car if you don't want to use it, so it's not even like it's holding you back from a weight.
I mean, I would say why not spend that $5-10 on a cord for your mic, because sound is better than production value. Generally, sound is so much more production value. And again, like I am a sandbag fan. basically all of our shoots have used them in some way or another.
So you're saying if you were broke and completely out of money, you wouldn't spend your last $5 on a sandbag?
No, I would spend it on an XLR cable for a boom mic.
So our next piece of gear, this little guy. Do you know what this is, Matteo?
It's an SSD.
No. This is a hard disk drive. This is a
Lacy. It's an HDD.
Yeah, this is a Lacy rugged hard drive. And, the OG filmmakers from like 15 years ago will know exactly what this is. It's a very iconic way to store your media, not just on a hard drive, but like on this specific one. So I think we're going to swap for this one.
Okay.
I'm going to give the floor to you. You have 30 seconds, Matteo, to pitch me on why you need a 4 terabyte Lacy rugged hard drive. Is there any details you need about it before you start arguing for it?
How much did it cost roughly right now?
It's on par with most hard drives, maybe slightly more expensive. I think this one's 4 terabytes. I think it was $150.
All right, so it's a hard drive. We all know hard drives. They're tried and true technology. Lacy itself is one of the more reliable ones, one of the more iconic ones to store all your media on. But look at how much SSDs cost for 4 terabytes. For even like 2 terabyte drives are kind of insane. So why not just go with something that is proven in the industry and gives you what you need at a reasonable price? Maybe a little more, but you're paying more for quality already. Why spend all the way? Yeah, that's it.
That is time. 3, 2, 1. All right. Lacy rugged hard drive, more like Lacy schmugged hard drive, because this, look, Matteo's point might have been valid, but this isn't 2016. SSDs don't cost a ton of money anymore. You can get a 4 terabyte SSD for more like $150 as well. It's slow, it's clunky, takes a while to spin up. Like, why do you want this on your desk when you can have a nice, neat little SSD that's way faster? You can actually edit in real time, and that is time.
Yeah. Honestly, I was not aware that you could get a quality 4 terabyte for.
And let me just make your case for you. Nowadays, it's like, or they're about the same price, but you can get more capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
But I'm just saying, my whole thing is like, you don't need like a 15, 18 terabyte hard drive. It's a lot more useful to have a 4 terabyte SSD. And when they cost the same, yeah, you're getting more storage out of the hard drive. But like, what you really need nowadays is fast storage for accessing your 4K clips.
Yeah, and just file transfer.
Yeah, it's way faster. So like, what's the purpose of a hard drive anymore?
There is something to be said for tried and true legacy technology. It's like an analog typewriter. It's not faster nor better than a word processor. But I do feel that at the price for whatever, in this case, an HDD, for the price, you're like, yeah, this is something that I know will work. It's like an AK-47. It was designed almost 100 years ago, but
let me cut you off,
working.
Because technically the SSD is more reliable. The hard drive has mechanical components that could fail. So what's your point about it's not robust particularly? Maybe this Lacy is slightly more robust than the other ones, but less robust than your average SSD.
It's the proven aspect of it, which
I'll
give you like the SSD is just much better, and I've said this, I've agreed.
Are you filled with nostalgia about the hard disk drive?
I don't know. It's something that I'm like, it's always worked for me. Why should I move to something else unless I have to?
Fair enough. All right, fair enough. Well, with that, let's move on to our last piece of filmmaking gear, which is everyone's favorite. Haze in a can. Hey, haze in a can, guys. All right. Well, if you
is this going to be like the third week in a row, Zach?
Dude, I talk about haze in a can every day. What are you talking about? Time to put 30 seconds on the clock. I'm going to be arguing about why haze in a can is amazing.
Okay. You do every day. I'll call you up on the phone. You're like, have you heard about haze in a can?
All right. 30 seconds on the clock. 3, 2, 1, action. If you've seen Zack's Gear Corner from 2 weeks ago, you'll know that haze in a can is one of the most nifty little things that you could buy as a filmmaker. It adds so much volume to your shot. It allows you to get more mileage out of your lights because the way that the haze interacts with the lights allows you to see the light beams and really shape the light even further. And as an artist, really, it's all about having that creative freedom to create the look that you're going for that's going to best tell your story. And haze in a can does that better than anything else. And for $5, I think you can't beat it.
Time to be a negative Nancy.
3, 2, 1, go.
Despite being portable, haze in the can is just not a sustainable way to create that haze. You can use a fog machine. They're not expensive. They're pretty easy to use. And they're not as bad for the environment as all the aerosols in haze cans are. You're killing the planet, period. That's time.
I retract everything. Okay. Okay. 2 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go. Really that much of a hater? You really care about the planet? You think I should care about how my shots look? Make them look worse for the planet? It's going to be here as long as I'm alive, so why do I care? I'm just here to make good art.
I do feel that there are ways to utilize more sustainable means that you're not just blasting aerosols like
Sure.
It's the 60s and you're putting a whole...
It is probably better to... And also, like, you really have to lay it on thick to get, like, a heavy effect with it.
Yes,
but
I remember.
That's not the point of haze in a can. Haze in a can is kind of like, it's like a pocket knife. Like, yeah, a machete is more effective for a lot of things, but sometimes you just need to pull it out of your pocket, do the job, spray a little bit in the air, get that volume, get a great looking shot, and move on with your day.
I don't disagree. Like, in moderation, it's not harmful.
Different tools for different jobs. And I'm just saying it's really handy. And for $5, I mean, it's probably more like 20.
Yeah, it's nifty. I'll give you that.
It is nifty.
That's all I got. It's nifty.
Well, let us know in the comments who you think had the most compelling argument.
Clearly myself. Let's go. That's not even
we'll reveal
not
the
even a
result
competition.
on the next episode. I don't know. Well, what's next on the agenda?
We've gone through the lenses. Do you want to summarize the lenses for us? Just give me, again, you're my lens caddy again. I pulled you out of your corner. Like, okay, we're done talking about gear. Give me just a quick and dirty summary. Each lens, the best use for each lens.
Yeah. So the thing with lenses is it's really, you're trying to figure out what is the balance between subject and environment. And, tire lenses are better for isolating your subject, and then wire lenses are better for showcasing the subject within an environment. And you basically need to take the tools of film language, which we'll talk about in a later episode, but take the tools or take your film language and find a way to, figure out what ratio to prioritize, subject versus environment. Because at the end of the day, you can basically use any lens to achieve a wide shot. You can use almost any lens to achieve a close-up shot. It's just a matter of how close you are. So like with anything filmmaking related, like it's contextual. It just depends on like what look you're going for. Just get a lens that does it all, and then you'll be fine. Get a 24-70, and that'll really do everything.
Well, I do believe now is time for the lens quiz.
This is a multiple choice quiz. You're going to look at the shot and click the correct answer. Before you begin, I have one hint to give you, and I'm going to tell you your reward for if you get all of the answers correct.
Okay.
So the hint is that there are only 2 lenses used for all of these shots.
2 lenses, all of these shots.
Now, if you get all of the answers correct, I will buy you, I almost called it a bean bag. I'm going to buy you a sandbag. Not just any sandbag, a Matthews BOA bag, because these things are tight and they're really nice.
Bag. Okay.
So, with that out of the way, no pressure or anything, but what do you think this first shot was captured on?
Honestly, I kind of think it's on a 20 millimeter. Do I get to look at the other ones?
I'm going to say no.
No, okay. Oof. I want to say a 20 just with like the way the leading lines are looking, but I could be psyching myself out.
It tends to happen on multiple choice quizzes. Go with your gut. Go with your gut.
I'm gonna go with
your
my
heart.
gut.
Okay.
This is definitely like a 50.
Definitely 50. Okay.
I say that. Let's see if I... It has leading lines.
Okay, before you answer, so you already chose a 20 and you chose a 50. So you could either be 100% correct with those 2 focal lengths or 100% incorrect.
I want that bean bag.
I'll give you half credit. Half credit is half a can of haze in a can.
Okay, half a can of haze in a can.
So if you're feeling insecure about your first 2 choices, maybe choose 28 and 35 instead, but you only get half credit.
I'm also like trying to like go back in my mind and remember what you switched to for some of these shots.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
was
I'm
actually
gonna say
watching the behind the scenes footage to try and figure it out.
this is
It's
kind of
hard to
wide. I'm
tell.
gonna say it's a 20.
Okay. Before we move on, what makes you say that? You already picked 20, but just for the audience.
Gut feeling mainly. I am
Good
flailing
enough.
wildly
Good
in the
enough.
dark. Just we are a wide, and you had mentioned that the wide, the 20 is good for that.
Right.
And what really makes me say that is I remember you jacking the camera up on sticks and pointing it down and switching lenses to something, and because you wanted to get this shot twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm really moving off of. I know that's cheating. That does not matter. Ooh,
Our
what
final
lens was
shot.
used to capture this shot? I'm gonna say this is a 50. Let's see how wrong I was. Are you ready?
We're ready.
View
Oh,
score. Oh!
what was the score?
Ah!
Yeah, so I think the last shot was the one you were wrong on. That was also a 20. So you got 75% credit?
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, you win a half a can of haze in a can.
Half a can of haze in a can.
It's not as good as the boa bag, but the boa bag's really nice. But you get a half a can of haze in a can. Do you feel elated?
I do feel elated. So for the first shot, you'd mentioned that the 20 was good for leading lines, and I kept second guessing because it was like the Nova is a very linear car. It's a boxy car.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still a car that has curves to it. So I was trying to figure out if I was seeing leading lines, like very strong leading lines that were curved.
Or if it was just the car curving.
Yeah, or if it was just the car curving. So I was having to like go back in my mind, and thankfully I was like, that's a Coke bottle curve on that car. And none of the other like actually straight structures, for as actually straight as my carport is, none of those really had the same curve as the Nova did. So I was like, it's a 20 millimeter.
Yeah, well, you did good. I think the last shot, like, there wasn't much to go off of, so it was a little trickier. But you did well.
I
taught you well. You passed.
remember being on set for that one, because I wasn't shooting. I wasn't in the shot for this one. Actually, I was just kind of directing, doing the weird little producing / writer / actor thing that we were doing for this film. And I remember that you were kind of close. So it was probably a 50 millimeter. That's what messed me up. I should have looked at the screen a little more compared to what I actually
confident.
did. This has been the lens quiz. I hope you guys learned something.
Let us know if we should do more quizzes.
Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. You tend to do that, so I'm happy with that.
I think now also we're talking about segments of the show.
Yeah.
It's a good time to mention that one of the things we like to do on the Your Next Film podcast is review not just our own films, but talk about your guys' films.
It is your next film, after all.
We were able to do that a few weeks ago. It was super fun. And all you have to do to submit your film for the show is to click the link in the description. It's really easy. It literally takes 2 seconds to fill out the form. Just paste the link to your film, and we'll review it and email you and say, hey, do we have your permission to show your film on the show? Because we think it's worth talking about.
Filmmaking is like film in general really is such a communal process. Everything is, you're always talking with people and exchanging ideas. And so like much of this is just me and Zack talking and exchanging ideas, but you the listener, you also have important things to say about film. And we'd love to like really get into artistic conversation about each other's works and all of that. But this has been our kind of breakdown of lenses. I hope that was beneficial. I hope that you guys were like, man, I want to go out and shoot something with a 50 mil. Personally, as somebody who doesn't really get into the gear, some of my favorite lenses have been, it's built into the Handycam. I don't have to do anything with it.
That's honestly the best lens you can get right there.
Yeah, honestly. And the iPhone camera, I always just go the closest zoom in and then I just walk back until it makes sense because it's more cinematic that way.
You said the C word.
Closest.
Cinematic.
I always say cinematic. I'll get cinematic all over the place, Zach. You can't stop
Not on
me.
this podcast.
I do think it is helpful to be like, oh yeah, like here's a talk through of a bunch of lenses rather. Here I've got a lens caddy right here to do it for me. And now I'm like, yeah, if I'm just now buying my first Nikon, let me opt for a 50 mil first, because I know that I'll be using a lot of that for my little indie mumblecore film, versus just sort of like shot in the dark buying a lens set and trying to figure things out on my own.
Yeah, which can be extremely overwhelming. I would say start off with a prime lens, something like a 50, but you can kind of pick like 28, 35, 50. Just pick one of those, learn that lens really well, because there's nothing more overwhelming than being just handed a set of lenses and being told like, which one do you want to use? And it's like, I don't know.
For my senior project, we got a red camera that we were going to use, which was exciting for everybody except for the fact that everybody wanted to use it as clout to take pictures with on Instagram. Like, hey, look at me, I'm on film and there's a red. But we had that lens paralysis going on where we messed up some pretty crucial takes that we did not get alternates of, because our guy went for like, I think an 18 millimeter.
So that would be a 24 equivalent on the red camera.
Yeah, he went for an 18 millimeter when he really shouldn't have. And it was, everybody was bungling because we're all college students, but he just kind of was like, picked at random, put the wrong lens on, and it really ruined a nice interior scene. And I was like, come on, man.
Yeah. You have to have a good grasp of film language, like when to go tight, when to go wide. Like, the lens isn't going to do that for you.
I do wash my hands of that. I was not the director of photography. It was a co-directing setup, which those always work great, obviously. But he was like, I'll direct the visuals and you direct the actors because you're a writer. And it honestly worked pretty well, except for the fact that nobody knew what they were doing.
I think that concludes our episode, Matteo.
Yeah, your next film. The podcast for creatives, by creatives.
The #1 indie filmmaking podcast, yo.
Don't look at our subscriber count. Just believe us.
No, it's the #1 podcast, but it's just not there yet. In the future,
I will be the #1 podcast.
It will, and we'll have a studio downtown, and we'll be recording in person and again.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be gorgeous.
There may be some in-person episodes coming down the pipeline. You don't know that.
We have a lot of fun stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. I really am invigorated and like ready to really take a crack at a lot of fun concepts with this podcast.
Yeah. I will say, like, I feel the same way, and I feel about the podcast channel at the moment something that I haven't felt with my personal channel for a long time, if ever, which is like, yeah, we're trying new ideas and it's like creative, but like I have someone to share it with directly, which is you. So if I make like a cool Zack's Gear Corner where I'm like out in the snow shivering, you get to be like proud of that in the same way that I am, because it's made for our channel. So like I made a cool thing and you're like, that's cool. Like that's also like I have a part in that, and that gets posted on. It's not just a cool thing that Zack did because it's being put on our podcast, and like that's got me more motivated. Speaking of filmmaking collaboration. Yeah, exactly. So,
well, I've been your host, Matteo Guthrie.
And I've been your host, Zachary Koch.
This has been Your Next Film podcast. Go make a movie.
Make one right now.
Yeah, go right ahead. Do it.
Do it in your bedroom. Do it in your office.
Do it in your garage.
Do it in your yard. Do it in the city at 1 a.m.
We've done that.
Call it hypnagogia and talk about it on a filmmaking podcast a year later.
Make that movie. I swear. Do it.